officially time to get on the Google Analytics 4 train. Universal Analytics has been deprecated. They are slowly killing the accounts off one by one, and eventually you're not going to be getting new data into Universal Analytics, and you're going to have to rely on Google Analytics 4, which is great if you have it set up. Actually, only if you have it set up correctly. There are a ton of hidden settings in Google Analytics 4 that if you don't touch them could totally mess up your data. In this video, we're going to cover the 8 things that are the most important in your Google Analytics 4 setup to ensure that you have the best possible data to work off of. Let's get to it. When you come into Google Analytics 4, there is a primary navigation. Now at the bottom of this primary navigation, you toggle over to the admin section. In the admin section, there are 2 columns. We're going to focus only on this second column because it has all of the most important things as it pertains to your data in this property. So starting off, we're going to go with something very simple. Number 1, in property settings, you can select your time zone and currency. Now this sounds like a no-brainer. It sounds like something that should be set up correctly. However, it's not always. And what happens is you start to compare apples to oranges when you have Facebook reporting in Eastern time and Google reporting in Pacific time. You really want those two to be on the same page, or your CRM or whatever things you're going to be comparing data from. Ideally, they should all report in the same time zone. Also, your currency. Now, Google uses US dollar by default. If you need to use a different currency here, you can, and all the conversions are done on the back end. So just something to be aware of there. Under property settings, there's property access management. We're not going to worry about that. We're going to jump straight into the data streams now. This is just a great example of how Google hides some of the most important settings from users. So when you create a data stream, you will get to a screen that looks like this, right? And it shows your enhanced measurement, which we'll get to later on in this video. And then at the bottom, under the fold, so you don't see it up here, you have to actually scroll under the fold. It gives you the option to configure your tag settings. When we go into tag settings here, once again, there isn't much above the fold that would really draw your attention. The one thing here is configuring your domain. So by default, Google is tracking outbound clicks with an event called click. And this event is exactly what it sounds like. It's tracking those outbound clicks. So anything going off of your website. If you don't set up your cross-domain tracking, it's going to collect clicks for people going to your other domains, whether it's courses or blogs or store or whatever it is. Also, you don't want it to seem like people are starting new sessions when they're really just going to your other domain. Ideally, those things are, connected. So all you have to do is put the tag on both of your domains, all of your domains, and then name those domains right here so you can get cross-domain tracking set up correctly. Now, under this settings tab, there's actually a lot more that lives under here, but you would never see it unless you thought to click on this show all button. Again, you want to go through all of these settings. I highly suggest you go through all of the property settings and click on every show all whatever button you can find just to make sure that you don't miss anything. I'm gonna point out 2 more things here. The first one is defining internal traffic. So in GA4, we can define internal traffic by creating these filters based on IP address. You can do it by a singular IP address or with regex or ranges, whatever you want. So that lives in here. And also the unwanted referrers list. So this is really important, especially for my people that are using a third-party payment gateway. Stripe and PayPal, I know for sure, are big culprits of this. What happens is people leave your website to go to Stripe and fill out their information, and then they come back. And if you don't have that as an unwanted referrer, then it's going to say that all of your purchases came from Stripe, and that's not overly helpful. So those all live in this data stream. So again, to get to those settings, you go into data stream, click into your data stream here, scroll down, find configure tag settings, click into that, then scroll all the way down to your settings and show all so that you can see your internal traffic and unwanted referrers options. Under data streams, we start moving into events. GA4 is an event-based platform, so you can see what events are here and create them. But the big thing in this event section when you come in here is to mark things as conversions. If you don't have your conversions marked, you don't have access to all of the attribution functionalities that GA4 has to offer. So you have to come in here and mark this as a conversion. Mark whatever you want to as a conversion. And you can see in GA4, it's super easy. You come into this events section. If you see something that you want to be considered a conversion, you just toggle it, and now you can see it says it's been enabled as a conversion. And when we come in here, we'll start seeing all of our conversion data for those events. The next thing we're going to look at are these custom definitions. Again, something that's really easy to go just to fly over if you don't know what's happening here. This is extremely important. If you're like me and you're using Google Tag Manager and you're passing along extra parameters with your events, if you want to be able to see those parameters, you have to come in here and create custom dimensions for those parameters. They're not reported on by default by Google Analytics 4. You will see them in your debug settings, and you can even access them through real-time analytics, but they're not retained unless you create a dimension for them. So you have to come in here to create a custom dimension. You hit this drop down and it shows you all of the things that you can create custom dimensions for. It should be noted that a lot of these things you can already see. If they're collected out of the box, you can already see them in reports or explore. But if you're passing something along like first field position, for instance, that's not collected by GA4 out of the box, you would want to select that, give it a name, and then click save. Now, the dimension name is what you will see in the reports. The parameter name is obviously the name that you give it in Tag Manager. Now, something really important to remember here is that you have to use lowercase and underscores in those parameter names in order to create custom definitions for them. After custom definitions, we get into data settings. Now, this is where you're going to want to start consulting either a lawyer or a privacy expert, because there are some important decisions that you have to make here that can really have a really big impact on the data that you collect and see in Google Analytics 4. So when we click on data collection, you will have the option to turn on Google Signals. Now, Google Signals is what allows you to report on gender, age, and interest. This is done through the Google Ads pixel, which is a third-party pixel. If you are subject to GDPR, you may not be able to turn Google Signals on legally. Again, I'm not a privacy expert. Please reach out to one. Other things to consider though when you turn on Google Signals is that it does lead to a lot more thresholding, meaning that some data will be withheld from you, and that can be a bit of a bummer. You can also turn signals on just in certain places. So in theory, I could disallow all and then just come in and turn it on for, the US, because in most instances that's fine. So you have the options to do that there. After data collection, we also want to go into data retention. Now, out of the box, Google Analytics 4 is only retaining event data that can be tied back to users for 2 months. That's not a very long time. That's just enough to let you look at month over month data. If you want to be able to look at that year over year, you're going to want to change this to 14 months. Now, again, just like I said with Google Signals, this is the part that you need to start consulting a lawyer, a privacy expert, someone in your business or who understands your business about whether or not you can turn this on and change it over to 14 months. Now, the last thing in here that's a bit of a bonus is using this debug view. So one of the things that's collected out of the box with Google Analytics 4, so we talked about our data streams in this enhanced measurement. If you open up the events that are available in enhanced measurement, you'll see that these form interactions are on. This can cause a lot of problems for people, so I highly suggest using this debug view. So you have to use Google Tag Manager. Once you go through the process with Google Tag Manager, even if you have nothing else set up, and what it does is it puts a debug parameter at the end of your URL, and when you go through the URL and you start clicking on things, all of those events will start coming through this debug, and it will show you, the forms that are being interacted with, and you can start to make decisions as to whether or not you want to collect those form interactions, because sometimes they just aren't the best gauge of actual form interactions. For instance, sometimes Facebook pops up as the form destination. That's really the big thing that you want to check, is go in and check and make sure that the form destination, so what you would do is you would find the event. So pretend this said form start. You would click on that, and what you want to look for is something that says form destination, and then you would click in on the form destination and make sure that this event parameter makes sense. Make sure that it's not Facebook or something like that that doesn't really have anything to do with your site, and then you can make a decision as to whether or not you want to keep those form interactions on. That's it. Please, please, please make sure you go and double check all of the properties you already set up. Make a standard operating procedure for when you set up new properties, because these things can truly have such a big impact on your data. Also, if you liked this video, please give us a like, subscribe for more GA4 content, and leave a comment if you have any other questions about GA4. And I'll see you next time.